Well, everybody, welcome back. We are on, what is this, week 6 of our Bible reading plan. This is going to be a fun week. We're in the middle of Exodus again. We're nearing the end. I don't think we're going to quite make it to the end of Exodus this week, but there's a lot of things that happen in these chapters. So this week we're in chapters 19 through 38, and we've read that the people of Israel have been able to, at this point, they've escaped Egypt, and now they're in the wilderness, and they're approaching a mountain. It's called Mount Sinai, and this is going to be a really significant spot that we're going to be reading about a lot following this as well. Mount Sinai is where God continues to choose to meet people. This is a really important and significant spot in the life of the Israelites, and also in the Christian faith as well. So in chapter 19, verse 8, we read that all the people answered together and said that all that the Lord has spoken we will do. So at this point, God has given them commands to basically worship no other God. God is the God who brought them out of Egypt. He's the one who parted the waters. He's the one who did all of these things. And so the people are agreeing to this kind of covenantal terms, and they're saying, yeah, we're going to do everything the way God said. We're going to quickly find out that is not the case, and we'll read more about that. So in verse 20, chapter 19, verse 20, the Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain. And then the Lord called Moses up to join him on the mountain. And I think this is just a really important and really kind of cool visual to see that the Lord came down and called Moses up, and God meets us where we are, but it's not just a fact that God will meet us. We have to respond. And so as a response to what God is doing, Moses is going up the mountain, God is coming down, and they're meeting right there. In this meeting is where Moses receives the 10 Commandments. So the 10 Commandments are basically the covenantal rules. These are ways that Israel should live by. These are rules that they should abide by, because they're this community, and they're at this point they don't have a home, and so these are very important rules for them to live by. But more than that, they set the groundwork for the faith that they will have in Yahweh. So these 10 commandments, 4 of them are centered around worship, so don't have any other gods. The Lord is the only God, and don't take the name of the Lord in vain, and then remember the Sabbath. Those are all 4 of those are centered around worship. And then the last 6 of them are all relational, so how to interact with one another and how to basically live in community together. So the final 6, honor your father and mother, don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't bear false witness, so don't lie about other people, and don't covet what your neighbor has. So don't desire what they have. Don't try to kind of keep up with what everybody else has. Just be content with what you have is another way of saying that. So all of these are ways to see that God sets the groundwork for the relational aspect with God, and then God sets the groundwork for relational aspect between one another. And then after that, we kind of read all of these different laws, and some of these are really interesting. So there's laws about slaves, laws about restitution, laws for living in community, and how to exact justice when somebody has done something wrong to you. So we're going to read a lot of those. There's some really interesting things in there, because the laws about slavery, they thought of slavery a little bit differently. It was more of a kind of a contractual agreement in most cases, not in all of them, but in most of the cases it was kind of contractual. It was to better the lives of both parties. So when you're reading that, again, if you have questions, feel free to post those, and we will try to discuss them more in the comments one-on-one. But you'll read about those. And then, let's see, in 24, chapter 24, is where the covenant is confirmed here. God calls Moses back up the mountain, and this is where the Lord provides 2 stone tablets with the 10 Commandments written on them. Moses was up there on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And in the meantime, what are the people doing? They're at the base of the mountain and they're waiting for Moses to come back down. Scripture tells us that they kind of got a little bit antsy. They started to wonder, is he ever going to come down? What has happened to him? And so they kind of take measures into their own hands. But we'll get there. He's up there for 40 days and 40 nights. Just remember that. So after this, 25 or 26 through 30 basically is kind of instructions for worship. God is telling Moses how to construct a tabernacle, which is a portable, kind of think of it as a tent for worship. And so there, within this tent, there's an inner kind of room that's called the Holy of Holies, which is where the Ark of the Covenant is placed, and that's where Moses meets with God, or all the high priest will meet with God. And so he's giving instructions there about golden lampstands, about the priestly garments, the court of the tabernacle, what the outer court is going to look like, and the dimensions of all of that. So you're going to be reading about that. And then we get to chapter 32. So after all of these things have been given to Moses on the mountain, remember he's up there for 40 days and 40 nights. This is all of the things that God has spoken to him, and he is coming back down the mountain. And chapter 32 is where we read about the golden calf incident. So the golden calf, if you remember in when the people of Israel were leaving Egypt, it says that they plundered the Egyptians. They took their gold, they took their jewelry, and so now the Israelites have that. And so they go to Aaron and they say, we don't know what's going on with Moses. We don't know if he's ever going to come down. So make us some gods that we can worship, because we've come here to worship. So make us a god to worship, which is against God's rules. God has plainly said that. And the people, if you remember in chapter 19, have said, yeah, we're going to do everything that the Lord tells us, right? So they go to Aaron, make us gods who shall go before us. And so he says, okay, bring all the gold, bring all the jewelry. He melts it down and he erects a golden calf. And they worship it, and they say, this, Israel, is the God who brought you out of Egypt. So one of the things to note here is that we often read this as, oh, they're worshiping an idol. And that's one way to interpret it. Another way to interpret it, because of what Aaron says in Exodus chapter 32, verse 5, he says, tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord. And so we could think of it as an idol itself, or we could think of it as Aaron attempting to give structure or an image to an invisible God. Because he says, tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord. And so it's not a feast to this golden calf, this lesser God. They're trying to worship the Lord, but they're doing it in the wrong way. That's another way to interpret it. So when you're reading that, I'd love to hear what you think about it. That'd be a really interesting conversation. But that's the golden calf incident. Moses comes down the mountain, sees what's going on, and remember, he has the 2 stone tablets now. He gets so angry, he throws them down, he breaks them. It's a big mess. He basically takes this golden calf and he grinds it, he burns it, grinds it up, puts it in the water, and makes the people of Israel drink it. So basically saying, this God is nothing, and you don't know what you're doing. So he does that. The rest of these chapters are basically more instructions on temple worship and how to construct the temple and all of the priestly garments and everything that goes within the temple and all of that. So as you're reading this week, make sure you write down, make sure you note things that stand out to you, questions that you might have. Again, post them here on our Facebook page or in the YouTube comments below, and we'd love to discuss those with you. And one more thing that I just saw that I missed is chapter 33. So I apologize about that. Chapter 33, Moses is interceding for the people because God sees what they're doing with the golden calf. So he intercedes. God's very angry with the people. And so Moses prays and says, God, you've brought them out of Egypt. You brought them into this place. You have set covenantal boundaries and rules and understandings with them. Won't you have grace and mercy on them? And so after Moses' intercession, the Lord allows him to see the backside of God. So he's not able to see God face to face, but he sees the backside of God. And coming down the mountain, his face is glowing and his skin is glowing, and the people are afraid. And so you'll read all about that. But it's really interesting. It's a really interesting section of scripture that we're going to be reading and diving into this week. And I hope that it is encouraging for you. I hope it's inspirational for you. And I hope that the questions that come out of this reading are going to be fruitful in helping you along your journey and your walk with Jesus. So I'm praying for you all this week. I love you. I'm so glad that we're all doing this together. And I'll see you next time.